Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is James and I'm continuing on with the Balsa USA Smoothie build. So in this video I'm going to be putting these two blocks on the forward fuselage. So I have a smaller block which forms the base of the canopy, and this gets glued on and it's permanent. It gets glued on like that. And then this other block forms this removable hatch, and it goes from the nose all the way back to here and attaches to this block. So the way it attaches is there's a little dowel that gets set into this block, and then there's going to be a receiver kind of hole on this one that it plugs into. So I drill this out, put the dowel in, and then drill out a hole on this one so it can plug in. Alright, so the way that it stays down is through this little assembly that is built right here. And that is made out of, here's a hardwood block that goes right in here. It has to be cut to fit, so it's going to sit inside there like that. And that's this little block right here. And then there is this 440 bolt with a blind nut that's going to go, right in there like that. Now, because this is pretty small diameter, if we just use that to attach the block on, this is soft wood, so when you screw that on, you wouldn't be able to get it very tight before this thing actually started to sink into the wood and dent the wood, and it wouldn't hold very well. So the way you do it is they give you this dowel. This looks like it's about a 3/8 inch diameter dowel that goes, it's going to go like right there. So you're going to drill this out and then sink this dowel into the balsa block. And then the center of it gets drilled out so that this screw, or this bolt I should say, can go through it and then screw into the blind nut right there. And that'll work really well, because now you basically have a sort of a hard surface for the little bolt to sort of seat up against, and it won't damage or sink into the block. Alright, so something I was looking at was that obviously it attaches here and attaches here in the middle, but then you have a kind of a long run between this point and the front of the fuselage, or the nose. I think that's around 8 inches or so. And I'm looking at that thinking, okay, that's not attached. I mean, it's not connected anywhere in here. And I'm kind of wondering, is when this engine is, humming along, is there going to be a lot of vibration and this thing kind of in there doing this? So what I'm thinking about doing is attaching it in the front also using some magnets. And I kind of drew it on there already. But let's see if I can, so like right here, if I took a couple magnets, had 2 of them, and I put one in the block and obviously one in the fuselage, and then hopefully that will kind of maybe hold that down. So I'm thinking about doing something like that. Alright, so let's go ahead and get going on this. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw the center line on the blocks. Now these are, I think they're 3 inches, 3 inches wide. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my square, and I'm going to mark, I guess I could do it on the end. Use a square, and I'll just mark it 3.5 inches. Like that. that. And do the same thing for this one. Some tools are indispensable, and this is one of them. It's a square. Okay. So it's going to go together like that. And I got this guy here that's going to have to be drilled out. So I think this is, I don't know what the diameter of this is. I think it may be 3/16. Yeah, about 3/16. All right, so let me get what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my pin vise and a small drill to do a pilot, and we'll get this drilled in here. Okay, so this is going to be my pilot hole, and I don't think this has to be perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and use, here's my dowel. So I got plenty of room. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the drill bit itself as just sort of the way to measure to the bottom. Something like that. Okay. And then I'm just going to put it right in the center, something like right here. This is so soft that it's going to go in really nicely. Now I got to get a bigger drill bit, which is the 3/16. So I could probably, because this is so soft and I'm not going very deep, I kind of played with it a little bit. I probably could drill this out just using my fingers, kind of finger pressure on the drill bit like this. You know, I could do that. I do have what I'm going to use though is going to use this my regular electric drill, which is really too beefy for this kind of work. I actually ordered a smaller kind of battery powered drill it's a Black & Decker. It's coming in the mail. That's going to be a little bit smaller. This is a little bit too beefy for this, and then my Proxxon, my roto tool, won't, it can't fit the bigger drill bits in it. So I try to get something. I ordered something that I think is going to be a little bit in between the two, and we'll see how that works when I get it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drill this out carefully. And I really don't want to overdo it here, so. See how far I went. Well, that's crooked. That's not good. Alright, so to make up for my mistake, since I do have a long dowel here, I actually just took it off camera and I set it up again and I went straight through further back. So yeah, the front part is a little wide, but then I sunk it in deeper and straighter. So that should be good now. And I have plenty of room, for the dowel in the front like that. So that was my mistake. I was trying to get this sort of on an angle to show it on the camera, and I wasn't lined up nicely, and I kind of screwed it up. But this is fine now. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and drill this hole, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of press it up against I'm going to use the dowel set in this one. I'm just going to try to press this on here and kind of mark it a little bit. And what I want to do though, there we go. I just kind of want to get it square like that. And then I want to mark it. See if I can mark it with this one. That. There we go. I'm going to flip it over. Probably a little bit hard to see, but Okay, so there's our where the dowel needs to go. Now I'll go ahead and get this thing drilled out. Things do move around a little bit, that's for sure. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this one on and let this one cure, and then come back and do the rest on this one. All right, so for this I thought I would go ahead and just use my standard wood glue. And I'm going to tape it down. Uh-oh. There it goes. Helps to open it up. Oops. And I'll come back and clean it up after I get it on here. Guess I could be wearing gloves, but this stuff isn't too bad to work with. All right. Alright, so I might as well glue this dowel in also. Let's see here, I'll put some of this on here. Yeah, the nice thing about this wood glue is, as people have commented on, is it's, I'm not going to say it's not toxic, but it's not like a CA or other types of glues. So a little more user friendly. I was going to sink this in here. I'm going to use the dowel to get it in there. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and let this sit and come back to it to do the assembly for this point right here. So let this sit for a while, and now it's cured up so it's nice and glued on there nicely. I'll just leave the tape on for now. And then here is the glued in dowel, and I trimmed it back a little bit offline, and then now I just got to kind of all round this off. Oops, here's the camera. I'll round this off a little bit, and then of course it's going to go right in our little socket right there, like that. Okay. All right, so there you go. There's that kind of hatch. Now what I need to do, pull this off of here now, is place this little piece right here. And what I have to do is, let me mark it so that I don't mess it up here. So it's going to go right here. And then I'll mark it like right about there. I'll do this side too. Okay. Okay, and that'll be, now I'll just have to trim that back here. So hopefully it'll go something like that. These little pieces out of the way. Now I'll just have to sand this down. One thing I do is as you saw, is I kind of rotate this as I sand. So I'll do one side, I'll be kind of gentle trying to keep it straight, and then I'll rotate it again and keep rotating it around. And by moving it around like that, I'm hoping to sort of kind of keep it square. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but instead of just hitting it like this with one direction and not moving the block, you can kind of put an angle on it, you know, if you're not careful. So I like to kind of just do this, just kind of rotate it around. Change the position. That just helps kind of minimize putting an angle into it. All right. Okay. So that's pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and sand this a little bit more, and then we'll come back and glue that on there. All right, one thing I did is I kind of cut the corners off, or just kind of sanded the corners off on this two sides right here, because this bulkhead, there's a little bead of glue that kind of squeezed out a little bit in this joint. So there's a little bead of glue in there. So I just kind of put these two, chop the kind of corners off a little bit so that it just fits in here nice and flush. So, okay, just like that. Now let's glue it on. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and use my Titebond again for this, and I'll just clamp it. Some on there. It does take a while for it to set up, but I'm going to put a little bit on the wood in here. Okay, this is going to get messy, but I'll just wipe it off. I've had a few people comment that, you know, I've mentioned this before about just using regular old wood glue, and it's just as strong as the CAs. May not be as strong as the epoxies. I don't think it's going to be as strong as an epoxy, so I wouldn't just use this for some stuff. Okay. All right, so this is going to go ahead and let that now cure up. Okay, well, I let this sit for a while, actually overnight, and now it's nice and cured up there. And now I'm going to go ahead and set the center hole for the bolt by measuring. So I'm going to go ahead and measure the center line along here. And actually, let me get my ruler here. This is looks like it's about about 3 inches. Somewhere right about there. 3 inches, so about 1.5 in. Something like that right there. Okay. If I can get this guy on here. And I think this is 3/8 wide. Nope, it's a 1/2 inch. Okay. So I got to go about 1/4 of an inch. Right about there. Alright, so I'm going to drill this now with a little pilot drill. I'm going to pick a small one here. I lost one of my bits. I don't know where it is. I got to find it. I'll use this guy right here. Hopefully I can do this straight here. Now that I have this hole kind of piloted in there, I'm going to go ahead and put our block on. One thing I did is I put some CA in this hole around here to kind of make that a little bit harder, and I cleaned it out just to make that, because this is a soft wood, and over time I think that maybe the dowel will kind of wear it out a little bit, so I just put some CA in there to kind of make it stiffer. We'll put this guy on here like this, and then I'm going to tape this in place, and we'll come in from the inside on to mark the hole on the block. And here you can see the little hole in there, so I'm going to use that. And we'll use our pilot again, pilot bit. Let's get in there and mark it. That's easy enough. pull it back off. I can't drill it from this side because this is too large of a diameter, so it's kind of hitting up against the bulkhead and it would go in crooked. Okay, there's our hole. Now carefully drill this one in. Okay, so there's a location where the bolt's going to go through. All right, I'm going to put this back on now. And I'm going to do something. I want to make sure that this is in the right location before I drill it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill from the top now, and then pilot, get a little bit bigger drill bits and work it up to the next size up. But I want us to go straight through it and make sure it's all in one. I want to have just basically a straight shot. I don't want to drill the block separately, the block down here separately than the block up here, and for some reason not have it lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and, as you saw, I'm going to put this, get it lined up again. Just like that. All right, so now that these holes are lined up, I'm going to drill it through again, and with the next kind of size up. Okay. Now the final size will be this one. And this is the actual size of the blind nut. So this is a 440, little 440 bolt, but the blind nut, as you can see here, is a little bit bigger diameter, obviously. So that diameter is going to be this, which I think is a 13/64 or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one. This will go right into this will go through into the block below, and then eventually this one's going to get drilled out with a 3/8 hole for this. So again, the reason you do pilot holes is because if you start with a really big bit, it can have a tendency to walk or to move on you when it digs in. It could dig in and then kind of shift. So by doing the smaller pilot holes, you have more control, and you can kind of build up the hole that way, and hopefully that kind of minimizes having the hole offset on you. Okay, there it is. Okay. I can pop this off of here. Okay, well, I'll set the blind nut in at last. I'll set it back here, and we'll pull it through once we get this dowel set in here. So the next step is going to be I can either drill this out with the 3/8, and I'll probably do that right now, and then come back and we'll drill out the center of the dowel, which is going to be a little tricky. Alright, so this is a 3/8 inch drill bit. You can see how big this is, and that's obviously the size of the dowel. Now if I try to go straight in here like this, the chances of getting that to be straight and that to be actually a nice hole probably going to be kind of low, because it's just too big. It's going to dig in, it's going to want to move around. So the way to do this, and this is also in the instructions, is to go ahead and just work your way up with the smaller sizes. Just kind of keep going up and start small and step it up. And because it's softwood, I'm hoping I can just do this by hand. I think I'll be able to. So one thing I can do is I can kind of check it as I go, get it lined up, and probably can't see that on the camera, but I can see that that hole is kind of still on center with this bigger one, because I didn't want, you know, as I'm using these bigger drill bits, I don't want to sort of pushing it in one direction or the other and end up with the dowel kind of being off center. So it's kind of a weird little step, but I'll keep working with it. Last but not least, number 3/8. Okay. And there it goes. Let's pop this out of here. And now I'll have to drill this out now through here. Alright, so this next little step is going to be a little, I guess, a little tricky. So they want you to drill from both sides to try to get it through the center of this dowel. And I'm going to start with a 3/16 inch smaller drill bit, try to get it through, hopefully get them to meet, and then we'll go through with this 1/8, which is basically probably a little bit, is it the same size? Maybe a little bit bigger than this. And that's going to be okay. As long if this is loose, it doesn't really matter as long as it can seat down on top of this right here. But it's a sort of a little tricky little step to get this to be straight. And again, I can kind of move things around. I know that this may not be perfect over here, so I can kind of sand things and kind of move things around to get this to fit right. And then we'll get this glued in here nice and strong, and it should be fine. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is try to mark a nice kind of a center point on here. Somewhere right like that. Do the same thing on this side. Okay, looks like I finally got it through here. And you know, I could have done this with a drill, electric drill or something, but I just kind of think I wouldn't be able to get that to go very straight. It'd be kind of hard to keep it that way. So I did it by hand, obviously. I'm not really sure I am too fond of this particular little step in this kit, but we'll see how it works. Okay, so now I've just got to drill this out with the bigger size. Yeah, I kind of think maybe there would have been a better way to do this. I'm not sure. This seems kind of pretty cumbersome little step here just to get this thing to bolt on. If you hear some screams and kids in the back, there are people, my neighbors are having a pool party or something, so. Alright, well, finally got it through here. You see there. Yeah, you know, it's an old kit. It's got some kind of interesting things. I'm not saying this is bad. It just seems like it's a lot of effort. I should go through there like that now. Alright, so I can put this on here now. And then I mark the top of my dowel. Oops, here's the top of my dowel. I should be able to drop this in here. Okay, like that. And now I can go ahead and seat this little blind nut. So let me flip this over. Alright, a little bit hard to show here on the camera because it's kind of down inside here, but I'm going to try to get this blind nut sort of at least on the mark down there. I'll just try to guide it in. Stick it in there. Okay. But what I want to do, though, my bolt fell out, is I don't want to push it in all the way right now. I want to just kind of use the bolt to actually kind of get it set to seat it in there in the correct location. So hopefully I can do this without it all popping out here. Flip it back over. Just try to find it. There it goes. And by doing that, instead of pressing it in there, you know, pressing it in there and gluing it and then coming back and trying to get it kind of to bolt it on, this will help seat it in the right location, because there is some play in some of this stuff. So at least I get it in the right location and I can seat it down there. I mean, seat it into the wood, I mean. Should be able to tighten it up. There it is. And then I'll hit this carefully. I'll put some CA on there to hold it in place. Now I want to be careful. I don't want to get any in the threads if I can avoid it. Okay. All right, so I just kind of got it right along the outside of it and let it kind of seep into it. That should be good. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and glue this dowel in here. I'm going to use a piece of my parchment paper. I'm going to put that right here like this so that the glue doesn't kind of go down and glue the block on. I'm going to put this just like this. So get the block lined up. That. Can't go too far, but oops. Always good to check. I'm going to use 5-minute epoxy on this because, you know, as I was trying to get this thing lined up using that big 3/8 drill and everything else, things kind of moved around a little bit, so I had to get things lined. I had to do a little bit of sanding and kind of get the hole in the right location. Did a few little things off camera, and so it's not perfectly tight, it's not perfectly snug when the dowel goes in there, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the epoxy to kind of fill it in a little bit. Every kit has its kind of quirky things. I mean, I found this step to be a little bit like that. I kind of thought it was a little difficult. Seems like it's easy. Should have been easy. Maybe it's just me, but it seemed a little bit harder than I thought it would be. Okay. Don't want to glue my bolt in there. I do want to get enough of this on here. And once I get it in there, I'll use the bolt to kind of line it up. Okay, so I'll let this cure up there, and then we'll take the bolt out. So this should be good to go. I didn't let it cure completely because I want to make sure that it's not stuck down here. So it's good enough. Pull it off of here. See how it came out. There's that. Pull this off of here. Hold on a second. Okay. All right, that seemed to work okay. So I'm going to pull this off of here. Piece of tape. Okay, well that's it for these blocks being installed on here. It was a little trickier than I thought getting this little assembly in here going, but other than that it came out okay. And as I mentioned before, I'll probably think about maybe putting some magnets under here once this whole area gets shaped, just to kind of keep this thing from sort of vibrating up here. And then once I get everything on here, all these other blocks, there's a block going to be on the bottom down here, and then there's going to be this rear lower sheeting down here. Once I get everything on here, and also the blocks back in here where the tail surfaces are, then I'll shape everything at one time. I'll carve and sand and get everything in one shot. And that's why I'm kind of leaving it like this. I don't want to shape them independently. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching my channel. Thanks for tagging along on this build, this long build. And join me next time. I think I'm going to be putting in the engine mount and continuing on with this Balsa USA Smoothie 40. All right, see you next time.